Hey there, everyone. Hope you're all having a great day. So, did I surprise you? Yeah, I know I said I wasn't going to be uploading this week, but you know what? I don't care. I worked a little bit extra, so you get this bonus video while I'm away on vacation. That's how much I love all of you. If for whatever reason you didn't see my previous video, then I told you all I'd be on vacation in Mexico and we're celebrating my dad's 60th birthday. I guess that should explain why my video schedule's been a little bit different and why there hasn't been 3 uploads. I should be back to regular schedule starting November 5th, but that's besides the point. Today, we got some stories from wonderful people such as yourself. So you know what? To go with the theme of me being on vacation, I figured we're going to focus on some vacation stories. As you all know, vacation should be a time of relaxation, fun, and excitement. But sometimes, you never know what sort of spooky experience might be waiting for you. These 5 tales are sure to keep you on your guard when you least expect it. Hey, enjoy the background footage I took. I did this while doing the Long Beach Half Marathon a couple of weeks ago. I'll show you more towards the end, so make sure to stick around for that. But with that said, let's get on to this spooky story, shall we? Vacation story number 1. Don't go exploring the cruise liner on your own. This one's a bit more creepy than anything, so let me tell you all about it. This took place about 3 years ago, when my family and I took a cruise to the Bahamas. I'm 17 right now, but I was 14 when this took place. For the most part, it was pretty fun. My sister and I spent time by the pool, or other times we would be in the game room playing games all night. During this time, we made some friends who we still keep in contact with today. I swear, anytime you're on vacation, you make the greatest friends. Probably because you only get a short amount of time to see them. This is why we ended up meeting our new friend Emily. She was a year younger than us, but we connected while playing at the pool. She just randomly came over to us and we started talking about TV shows and movies. I mentioned her because she was with us when this took place. It was about 3 days into our trip and by now we're starting to get used to the boat. We know where the pools are, the restaurants, the game room, etc. But after seeing the same thing 3 days in a row, we wanted to go ahead and explore a little bit more. I mean, could you really blame us? This place was huge. You could get lost with all the tight corridors and hidden hallways. I'm sure you can understand where this might be going. So, this evening, my sister and I ended up meeting Emily at the game room at around 8 p.m., and from there, we went to go get some food. In case you're wondering, our parents were at a party the cruise was holding. We began walking down further into the cruise liner, heading towards an area we still hadn't explored yet. We were located towards the top of the boat, and our plan was to go to the very bottom. Mind you, this cruise liner was like exploring a 10-story building. Obviously, we had quite a bit of searching to do. So after about an hour, we ended up reaching a room that looked to be off limits. The sign said employees only, but being the adventurous teenagers we were, we decided, you know what? We're going to enter, especially considering no one's around. From the looks of it, it appeared to be like a waiting area. Here, we could see what looked to be like an art gallery, as there was various art on display. There was also a table with some leftover food and drinks. Honestly, it looked pretty boring, but my sister and Emily were so fascinated with the art of the animals and landscapes, I thought, whatever, I'll just stay around anyways. Seemingly out of nowhere, we hear the door behind us open, and we thought, oh great, we're in trouble now. Instead, this middle-aged man walks into the room wearing sunglasses, a coat, and baggy jeans. He seriously looked like the kind of person you'd find in an alleyway. It did make us a bit nervous as he stood there staring at us for a couple of seconds, but finally, he spoke up to us and said, "Wow, the 3 of you are very beautiful. What are you doing here all by yourselves? Where are your parents?" The smart thing to do would have been to tell him our parents were in the other room right next to us. This most likely would have caused him to leave. But no, instead he continues to compliment us, as well as wanting to know more personal details. Ugh, it seriously gives me the chills. You see, he wanted to know which room we were staying in. Of course, of all times, my sister, being the naive one, ended up saying we were staying on the 2nd story. Wow, way to go. That immediately seemed to get his attention. "Oh, you don't say. I'm staying there too. But hey, since the 3 of you are down here, why don't we get to know each other a little bit better?" As he said that, he had the most eerie smile. It's like he was enjoying this. Obviously concerned, my sister, Emily, and I began walking to the door, which he appeared to be angry with. Now hold on. Where do you think the three of you are going? He then takes out one of those sharp icebreakers you use to break ice, and seeing that, it automatically sent us into flight mode as we take off running. We run so fast that this guy eventually gave up after about 30 seconds. First thing we did was we tried to locate the nearest security guard. When we do, we are desperately trying to relay the information to him, which eventually it does get out to him. He told us to return back to our rooms and his team and himself would look into it more. Well, with the description of the man, they ended up finding someone that matched our details. Soon after, they called us in to check and see if it was indeed the same person. It was. And when he looked over at us, I'll tell you, he gave us the most worrying smile we've ever seen. It's almost like he was saying, "You haven't seen the last of me yet." And that was it. We tried to enjoy the rest of the trip, and we never did see that guy again. Vacation story number 2. Creepy cruise experience. Talk about a very creepy experience in the previous story. But let me tell you all about mine and how it's made me more cautious about being on my own. If it's one thing I teach everyone, it's this. When you're in a place you're unfamiliar with, either let someone know where you are or have someone with you. With that said, I'll take you back to when I was 16, so 3 years ago. I was on a cruise with my family and we were heading from California to Alaska. It was nice for the most part, apart from the weirdo that I ended up encountering. Right away when we got onto the boat, there was this guy who I want to say was in his late 20s, who seemed to have an interest in me. He was about 6'3", probably weighed about 220 pounds, and he had long greasy dark hair with glasses. I tried my best to ignore him, but it first started with a stare. I'll never forget it. It's like the sight you would see when an eagle is set to get a rabbit on the ground. Regardless, I try to forget about it as we waited for a cruise liner to leave the port. We eventually do, but still, I can't help but notice this guy isn't too far away, and he seems to have his eyes on me. We start heading to our room now, and it's been about 10 minutes since I last saw him. Cool. What are the chances of seeing him again? Besides, there's at least like 10,000 people here. Well, wouldn't you know it, out of all people, he had to be in the room next to us. It turned out to be that same guy. See, as we're turning a hallway to our room, I notice a familiar face up ahead. Yep, same guy, and he's just beginning to open his door. I froze for a second as my parents continued to walk. When he heard my parents talk, he looked over to us, and that's when he saw me. Ugh, I still remember that smile, and then he said, "Hey there, neighbors, you need help with your luggage? Come on, I don't mind." Suddenly, he was all nice, and of course, my parents being the way they were, they actually accepted the offer for his help. I wasn't really buying it as I slowly started approaching. "Hey, I remember you. I saw you out on the deck. I should have introduced myself. The name's Carlos." "Okay, Carlos, if that really is your name. You might have been able to trick my parents, but I wasn't falling for your games." Soon enough, he helps us with the luggage and my parents go and take a seat on the bed. I was at the door ready to close and lock it on Carlos, and I couldn't wait to forget about him. Well, as he exits, he whispers something to me and then gives me a wink. I didn't really hear what he said too well, but I think it was something about how I looked. Nervous by that interaction, I tell my parents about what happened. "Come on, Chloe, you're just making a big deal about this. Just relax and have fun. It's not every day people help you out with luggage. Come on, you should be more grateful. People actually are doing good deeds for once." In other words, my parents were clueless. Over the next couple of days, I stayed close to my parents, never choosing to leave their side. I was more concerned that I would run into Carlos, the mystery stranger. 4 days go by, and I haven't seen any signs of Carlos. On top of that, I don't even think I've heard any noise from his room. I was starting to think that perhaps he had moved to a different room. That wouldn't be the case, however, the following day. By now, I did think he had moved on, as I was by one of the private pools. This area was for those who were in the VIP program, and as such, you would need a special pass to enter. There I lay down on one of those foldable beach beds, when suddenly I heard somebody call out to me. "Hey, did you miss me? It's been a while, hasn't it?" I was confused as I turned around, and guess who it is? Yep, Carlos. I try not to overreact as he sits next to me. Hi Carlos. What's up? Did you need something?" "Oh, I just wanted to come see you, that's all. Don't mind me." Just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, not with you staring at me the way you were. Sorry, Carlos, but I was just about to leave. Have a good one. He wasn't happy with this. He grabs my arm and then he has me sit back down. Hold on. I never gave you permission to leave. What's all the rush about? Relax. I'll tell you what the rush was. It was the rush of adrenaline telling me to get out of this situation, and fast. Here's the deal, though. At of all times, there's no one around. It seems like everybody's suddenly vanished, and the only two people here were Carlos and myself. I did see something I noticed that was off, though. Carlos didn't have a VIP bracelet. You're required to have one of these in order to enter the space. This made me think he had chosen to enter the VIP section just so he could come talk to me. That was when I actually did something smart. I pretended to act like my dad was calling me. Hey, Dad. Oh, you're just entering the hallway? Yeah, I'll be right there any second. Just hold on. This made Carlos act nervous all of a sudden as he backed off and I calmly exited the room. Once I did so, I booked it all the way back to my room where, of course of all times, my parents weren't around. My next concern was whether or not Carlos was going to come back and find me. He never does. However, there is a shocking discovery in the end. The morning of when we leave, we exit the room to find Carlos with his hands tied behind his back. And now, security were taking him away. I was confused as to why, and one of the security guards says that he'd been taking pictures of guests and following them around. I guess it was enough for them to kick him out. But yeah, Carlos, I hope I never see you again. I recently turned 24 years old, and wow, let me tell you, it's been quite the year. I just graduated from college, and now that it was summer vacation, I was looking on going on my own little trip. Where to? Gosh, it took me a while to come up with a place to go. Should I go to Vegas? Nah, everybody does that. What about a cruise? Sure, but I don't really have that much money, and I don't want to beg my parents for cash. Wait a minute, I almost forgot. There's going to be an anime convention in San Jose, California next month. Why don't I go to that? Sorry, I just really like anime, so this was a no-brainer for me. With my plan set in motion, I decided I would go ahead and get an Airbnb so I could save some money compared to staying at one of those fancy hotels. And so I leave my home from Los Angeles and I make the 6-hour drive north. I arrived to a house I was staying at and it was your fairly average home. Sure, it wasn't anything too fancy, but it had what it needed. My own room, decent internet, a shower, kitchen for cooking, the basics. The young couple who was renting the room to me this weekend, they were actually pretty friendly, but they told me they would be out for the weekend. I guess they had their own vacation set in motion. They go over the basic rules and soon enough they leave. Sweet. Not only did I have my own room, but now I had this entire house for myself. How much better could it get? Trust me, it doesn't get better. It gets worse. Fast forward later that evening. I just returned from the expo after hours of endless laughter and taking pictures with fellow fans. In case you're wondering, I was dressed up as Misty from Pokemon. Anywho, my Uber drops me off and I start heading to the door. I did, however, notice something different. It wasn't anything too obvious, but it was enough for me to go, wait, hold on a minute. I don't remember that. The flowers outside had been knocked out of the vase. Strange, but it could have been that perhaps I accidentally knocked over the vase. Day 2 of the convention now arrives, and I wake up excited for another day of fun. But guess what? I wake up to rain. And I'm not talking about your average ordinary rain. It was raining cats and dogs, and I couldn't even think about how much traffic there would be. This is why I decided I would wait the rain out until things finally settled down. And trust me, when you're cosplaying, you grow to realize that rain isn't exactly your best friend. Bummed out, I return back to bed and I sleep some more. About an hour later, I ended up waking up to the sound of noise. This noise confused me at first as I couldn't determine what it was. Note my bedroom door was open. That's when I heard the front door opening, followed by slow steps starting to walk into the house. I was thinking that perhaps the owners had returned. So I get up and I go greet them. Instead, I am welcomed with this middle-aged man who was in a jumpsuit. Funny, I don't remember seeing him when I got here. Oh, I'm really sorry. I didn't think anybody was home today. I'm with the power company. I'm here to check out the lights in the house. I hope you don't mind. I guess he could have been with the power company, but I started thinking, How did he even have a key to the home? Surely the owners weren't just going to give out their keys like candy on Halloween. I'm sorry, sir, but do you mind showing me some form of ID? You know, you can never be too careful these days. I nervously laughed when I say this, although I usually do this anytime I get nervous. Yeah, it's in my car. I'll go get it. He doesn't return after that. The rest of the day, I had this really bad uneasiness, but I eventually pushed it away thinking there was an explanation for all of this. It wasn't until the following morning when I'm packing my things that it took place. So I go to open the door, but that's when I'm met with a large figure standing towards the end of the backyard. I knew right away it was the guy from before. Same jumpsuit, only now he was wearing a hat, sunglasses, and he also had a crowbar. I actually think that I caught him in the process of trying to get inside the house, so immediately I locked the door, then I head on over to call for help. Thankfully, the nearest police station was 5 minutes away, so they get there in record time. In summary, they take him away, and I'm left wondering how he even got the key. Well, I later found out. Remember that vase that had fallen over? Well, apparently there was a spare key to the house. I guess that explained everything. Either way, it's nice to know that's behind me. Story number 5. Chased on a night out. A couple of years ago, my fiancé and I ended up taking a long-deserved vacation. We had been engaged for about a year and we were looking at getting married in a couple of months. However, before the big day, we had reservations for a resort town in Mexico. Thankfully, my fiancé and I had saved up plenty of vacation time, so we were able to get 2 weeks off. Anyways, we arrived at the airport hours after a flight from Michigan, and soon we got to our resort. I'll tell you, it was beautiful. I can still remember the feeling of the ocean breeze moving through my hair and the sound of seagulls flying above us. Needless to say, it was looking like a great start to a well-deserved break. We spent the next couple of days exploring the area, getting to know the culture, as well as walking alongside the beach. It's here at the beach that we hit up the nearby restaurants, and we watched the locals surfing. The restaurant we were at was actually pretty nice. They had live music and even movies playing. It was fun and all, but that wasn't until my fiancé got sick. See, she had developed a fever, and as such, she stayed in the room. Quite unfortunate for her, but she didn't want me to waste my time staying there with her. Don't worry about it. I would never want to leave you here in the room on your own. I can just order room service and just watch a movie or something. Honey, no. We're here to have fun, and that's what you're going to do. I don't want you feeling bad and staying in the room just looking after me. Besides, I really need some sleep. So why don't you go out there and get me something? I really felt bad, but my fiancé and I have the best trust you'll ever know. She knew I wouldn't try to do anything bad, so I promised her I would bring her back a gift. See, there was a local shop that featured handmade artwork, and she wanted me to get her some paintings of birds. She loves parrots, and I knew which one she wanted. Okay, so I started my adventure into town, and this is when it would start. Note that I speak very little Spanish, so going out at night in a place like this isn't exactly the smartest thing. Trust me, they'll take advantage knowing you don't understand them. About 5 minutes before I reached the major part of the downtown, I happened to catch this guy looking at me through his car. He had tattoos over his face and he seemed to just be staring at me. I actually got nervous because I thought he was looking at stealing my wallet and my phone. I walked past his car and I continued trying to put him behind me. However, when I reached the end of the street, I now see that he has exited his car and he's starting to stare at me more. It's almost as if he was saying, "You better keep a watchful eye, because I'm coming for you." Okay, maybe a bit of an over-exaggeration, but you never know. I kept walking and eventually I do reach the downtown area. About 20 minutes go by and I ended up picking up a couple of souvenirs, including the painting my fiancé wanted. That's when it happened. When I'm going to get some tacos from a nearby food stand, I see the same guy from earlier staring back at me from behind another food stand. I tried not to let him know I had seen him or that I was feeling uneasy at his presence, so he just continued to stand staring. Eventually, I pay for my food and I go to sit down at a nearby bench. No sign of stranger anymore, so who knows? Perhaps he lost interest. No worries. Soon enough, I look over at my phone and it's 10:30 p.m. Now's a great time to head back to the hotel and check up on my fiancé. Again, don't walk at night in a place you're unfamiliar with. The road to the resort had little street lights, and the nearest one was at least a street away. That was when I noticed a mysterious stranger approaching from the other side of the street. I decided to make my way to what looked to be like a restaurant. I was hoping that whatever this guy was up to, well, it had nothing to do with me. I make it to the restaurant, but they were in the process of closing. Sadly, I didn't understand what the older woman was saying, so I knew I couldn't stay there. Regardless, I figured, you know what? I'm going to make a beeline to the resort. It's only 10 minutes away. That's what I do. This was when I decided to call my fiancée to let her know I was on the way back. Also, I wanted her to keep me company. Wouldn't you know it, creepy guy comes out from an alleyway, and this time he wasn't alone. Along with him were two others who appeared to be of the same age, each wearing similar attire. Suddenly, all the adrenaline in me told me to run, so I waste zero effort as I book it down the street. All I'm able to hear are the sounds of these guys chasing me. This goes on for a minute, until I see what looks to be like an abandoned building. Sweet, I'll take my chances and hide in there. I jump a barrier, and I head inside this 3-story building. Once in there, I hide behind a series of boxes, and I watch as the group continues to run up the stairs. My best guess was they thought I had run up there. This was my opportunity. Once the coast was clear, I beeline it back to the entrance, and I don't stop until I can see the resort in front of me. I do make it back to my room, and quickly, I fell onto the bed tired and exhausted. Yeah, explaining what had happened to my fiancée was sure an experience in itself, but ultimately, she was happy I was okay. The rest of the vacation we stayed at the resort, and we never left until it was time to return back home. Wow, I didn't think we were going to make it out of those stories. Hey, you still there? Thanks a lot for sticking around with me and watching today's story time. Yeah, even though I pre-recorded this video, who knows? Maybe I might have a story or two to tell you when I get back. Let's just hope it's not a creepy one. Anyways, tell me what you thought of today's stories, and if you have your own story to submit, then feel free to send it in using the email in the description below. It's always great to hear from all of you. Who knows? Maybe your story might be featured on a future episode of the show. But yeah, before we get into the bonus videos, let's start off with a question. Today's question is this: where do you like to go on vacation to? Personally, I love going to Mexico. But let's face it, I'm already there. With that said, I did want to share with you my recent half marathon completion. For those of you who follow me over on my Instagram, or you've been following me for years, then you guys know how much I enjoy running. Seriously, it's so fun. To me, it's not a matter of getting a perfect time or being number one, but for me, it's more than anything about enjoying it. Sharing smiles and laughter with everyone, I think that's the best part. A couple of weeks ago, I was running in the Long Beach Half Marathon in Long Beach, California. This was part of the Beach Cities Challenge. It's this challenge which you have to do 3 half marathons in Southern California. I did one in February, May, and then, October. By completing them, not only did I get medals for each, but also, guess what? I got a special one for completing all 3. This was actually my second time completing it, as I also did the challenge back in 2015. Come to think of it, I've done quite a lot of these half marathons. I've run with my sister, my mom, friends, and all those around me. So hey, maybe next time you'd like to join me on one of these runs. Trust me, you don't need any experience. So if you'd like to see more of my running adventures, along with all the other fun things I post, then make sure you're heading over to my Instagram. That way you can keep up with all the latest updates. Until then, I'll see you all back here starting November 5th. I'm going to return with Unexplained Mysteries. Trust me, it's a good one. Until then, everyone, take care and have an amazing day.